And we are live. A little Josh Engelman shout out there for how he starts his shows. This is your old pal EMAC here on a Saturday, joined by one Greg Ehrenberg. I got to be on my P's and Q's here with the boss man on the show. How is everybody doing today? Hopefully you guys had some fun last night. We had no basketball. We got basketball tonight. You'll get Josh Engelman at 7:30 breaking down that with Live Before Lock. For those of you that can't wait, it's already out on the YouTube stream as well as our podcast feed. That is the NBA Strategy Show. You can hear Josh breaking down things, and he has some good insight there on Aaron Nesmith as well as who is it? Bryant. No, not Bryant. Bradley. The Bradley and Bryant combination. So check that out, guys. But we're going to talk baseball here. Big slate at 4 o'clock. Until the weather starts getting hotter. I think we got one or two more of these before they push more of their games to the 7 o'clock hour. But it's going to be a fun one. And for those of you playing the main slate, keep in mind that Los Angeles Dodgers game, it's 4 o'clock local time there. So it's going to be warm in Chavez Ravine. But, Greg, it doesn't look like we have any real weather concerns here that I noted. It looked like, I think Philly's not on our slate, are they?
Yes, it is. We have the Philadelphia-Milwaukee game where we have, who is it? Luzardo pitching, 20% ownership.
Yeah.
So that is the one spot that is potentially a little bit of a concern, but it's not anything that I am like totally terrified of because you have a 35% chance of rain, so it's not zero. But it looks like the rain is going to be closer towards the tail end of the game. Mm-hmm. And the main interest here, it is going to be, at least based on ownership, Jesus Luzardo. So it seems like even if we do get some rain, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything that postpones the game. But what it does look like is that any rain that's potentially going to come would be in like the 7th, 8th inning, the later stages in pitching. At least the starter's probably already done at that point. So nothing that I'm changing in the Sims, nothing that I'm taking out of my player pool. The one situation that would make me reconsider that is if we find out while we're on this show that the game is going to be delayed, because that would be a big red flag to me. Because then it's like, maybe they're being more cautious with the weather, or maybe they see something in the weather report that's different than what's available on just like Google. But as things stand right now, as long as the game starts on time, I'm not going to be changing anything in the Sims for that.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. And I've got I've got so many browsers open so I can do different things, but I have a hidden window somewhere of what I want. This is me and technology. It's just it's a never-ending battle.
You don't have to watch porn during the show. We're only here for another
15 minutes. And as we get into the analysis, it is so funny. When you wrote me a note on Twitter after Eric was sharing his Lindquist was sharing his here. I was typing up almost the exact same thing of, I see Greg forgot to log out of his server. So I thought that was really funny.
If you guys didn't see, somebody wrote quite a vulgar message to our friend Eric Lindquist on Twitter the other day. Not a negative one, just somebody who seems to like him a little bit too much.
Yes, there's hate and then there's hate love. This looked like it was some hate love coming his way, or enthusiastic, shall we say. But let's get down to brass tacks here. Kodai Senga looking like our most popular pitcher, as well as the pitcher that has the best chance of finding success, along with Tariq Skubal. So the big salary difference between the two of them here on DraftKings, Senga he's been pretty solid. Greg, is there buzz about him in New York? Do we even have local radio anymore, or do you watch any local news? What is the heartbeat of the city saying about Kodai Senga there?
So anything I hear about the local sports teams on the radio just comes from my dad listening to it, and then he just tells me information that's usually inaccurate that he heard on the radio. So I don't listen to it firsthand. But the other thing
it's better this way. This is real boots on the ground, if you will.
Right now, though, New York media is all about the Knicks. That's kind of the only thing that gets discussed, or it's just people being bitter. Like, I can't believe how bitter Yankee fans remain at the Juan Soto situation. It's completely misguided to me, because if you're going to be upset that Juan Soto signed with an in-state rival, be upset with the ownership that offered him a lesser contract and less money than your rival offered him. Don't be mad at him for taking the better offer. I don't really understand the logic. People are just like, fuck Juan Soto. And like this thing also where it's Yankee fans seem to be obsessed with it. Like there's nobody else who really cares. Like I've never seen a fan base so butthurt over a player going and signing for a different team for totally valid reasons. Another team just offered him a better contract. Be mad at ownership if that's what you want to be mad at, because, Yankees tickets are $1 gazillion. Its concessions are also super expensive. Like, to me, if you're really passionate about this, just be like, why are we paying all this money for you to not be able to match an offer on one of the best players in the league? But whatever.
So they wanted a hometown discount while he stayed in his hometown.
They just, I don't even know what the expectation. Oh, well, I guess the expectation is just like, because you should just be so honored to wear the pinstripes that you just accept whatever offer we give you. Which I understand that it was still a shit ton of money the Yankees offered him, but like just normal kind of common sense here. If you're working one job and you could go work another job that's the same comparable job, but one of them pays you more, you're going to take the one that gives you more money.
One would assume.
All right. He says it was the same contract. By the way, it wasn't the same contract for numerous reasons. The Mets, there's an opt-out clause in the Mets contract that the Yankees didn't offer him. There are things that make the Mets offer quite a bit more appealing.
Good times. All right, we've got some interesting stuff here. So with Senga, he started out on I don't want to say it like a pitch count, but he went like 77 to 79 pitches his first couple starts. Each of his last three, he's been over 100. So that's important because his walks have gone up as well. So it's been a little more hit or miss for him to get in that quality start range with comfort. But that is definitely in play today against the Rockies. We've talked ad nauseum about how they are, just the dreadful offense. They're pacing to be the worst team in Major League Baseball history, which is saying something, especially since the White Sox set the modern day record last year. Hat tip to the Cleveland Spiders. I remember when I used to go attend Cleveland Spiders games back in the early 1900s, or as some would say, around the turn of that century, Greg. But Senga, not too many flaws other than walks. A lot of walks in his last three starts. So he's everybody's top dog. Number two, Tariq Skubal. He is obviously the reigning American League Cy Young Award winner, actually having a better season this year than he did last year. And last year was pretty sublime, even as far as Cy Young seasons go. Then we got a bunch of question marks. So how do you feel about the top two? And then we've got a lot to talk about in the middle range here.
Yeah, so let's just talk about Senga at the top here, who's pretty clearly, I know that I kind of went on a little side tangent there, which got us off track, but Senga's very clearly the top pitching option on the slate. He's been great this season, and then he's also got the easiest matchup possible against the Colorado Rockies, who are just putting together an all-time incompetent season, and their offense is bad at home. They're even worse on the road. Senga this year, 1.46 ERA, 3.48 FIP, 3.13 expected ERA. He's got a strikeout rate a little bit down this year compared to other years, 23%, but he's still 28% strikeout rate for his career. I mean, we were rostering David Peterson at a more expensive price point against the Rockies yesterday. Senga's considerably better than Peterson. You just played Senga. It sucks that the Rockies are this bad that every pitcher is basically in play against them. Here's honestly what sites should do. If you have any pitcher who's not complete ass that's pitching against the Rockies, $1,500 more expensive than they normally are. Just make Senga like 11,000 today or something like that. So we have actual decision points to make. Yesterday, if Peterson was like 10,500, it would have been an interesting decision. But when he was 9K, you just played him. He wasn't even lights out. He scored over 20 fantasy points. Just play these pitchers against the Rockies. I wish there was a contrarian angle, but Senga's good chalk because the Rockies are terrible.
Yeah, there's the only thing that surprised me about the Rockies is somehow I missed Tyro Estrada is on their team. So he's in the lineup today. And just think, Chris Bryant, he's only been on the injured list 9 times in his time with the Rockies. Just,
if not for that, I'm sure they would be a stellar 35 win team.
oh boy. So FanDuel a little bit closer here. You got to go up an extra $1,000 there for Scooball, but then you've got Robbie Ray and Jesus Luzardo, our next guys that are in similar matchups. They have a little bit better strikeout opportunity, or they create strikeouts better than Senga does, Ray and Luzardo, but I'd rather take the easier path there with Senga. So we're seeing that in the popularity as well. So FanDuel is real easy to get different. Just play 30% of Senga and spread out your other guys. You can double the field on each of them easily. So there's your FanDuel analysis. But you mentioned Luzardo as the number 3 guy. I almost would rather go to Robbie Ray. So let's parse those guys out. Luzardo is looking, probably thrilled to be out of Miami, being in a winning team here. Good matchup. What is appealing to you for Luzardo?
Yeah, so Luzardo's been really, really good this year. I am underweight to the field on him. He's pulling over 20% ownership. I have exposure to him, but in the teens. But Luzardo's numbers this year, 2.15 ERA, 2.97 expected ERA, 2.26 FIP. Strikeout rate is 28.2%. He's always been a really good strikeout pitcher. There's been a lot of ups and downs over the course of Jesus Luzardo's career. At a point in time, he was the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball with the then Oakland A's. He got called up, and he was great right out of the gate. His initial foray into the big leagues, he was lights out. He looked like a future ace. And then all of a sudden he fell apart. So then you have in 2021, Luzardo, 6.61 ERA, 5.3 expected ERA, 5.48 FIP. And he ended up, I think he was part of the Starling Marte trade at the time, was what brought him to Miami. And then all of a sudden, he resuscitates his career in Miami. He's really good in 2022. He's really good in 2023. All falls apart last year in 2024. He gets injured. He sucks. He's a 5 ERA. Now he's in Philadelphia. To your point, EMAC, he's on a competitive team. And he's looking like a top of the rotation pitcher again. The only real issue I have with Luzardo today is that I much prefer Kodai Senga, who's really popular, but I'm still overweight to the field on Senga, which means that the ownership has to come away from some other guy. So ultimately, I'm a little bit underweight to the field to Luzardo. He's 10,000. He simply shouldn't be more expensive than Senga, and he's $1,100 more expensive than Senga. So one issue with having Senga in 3/4 of my lineups is it means that guys like Jesus Luzardo and Tariq Skubal, who are great starting pitchers, and I don't hate their matchups today, but I am underweight to the field on them in favor of playing the chalkier Senga.
All right. Sliding down the list a little further, let's look at Edward Cabrera. So from a talent perspective, injuries have got him. He was, he's getting his sea legs, as I like to say here. He's been improving this season. Strikeouts are always kind of his hallmark. Last year against 418 batters, he had almost 26% strikeout rate. This year it's about 25. He looks decent. He's going against the San Francisco lineup here that actually has a lot of strikeouts in this iteration against righties. If we look at the lineup that's there, they've got everybody except for Young-Ho Lee and Wilmer Flores strikes out above league average and well above league average. We're talking 25, 28%. Sam Huff, small sample size, 43%. Tyler Fitzgerald, great contact, nice power, fun base runner, but he's got a 30% strikeout rate. Yaz has a 23% strikeout rate. That's the lowest of everybody, not named Flores or Lee. I really like Cabrera here. Do you think is that a source of differentiation for you?
If I'm going to roster any pitcher who is sub 8K, Cabrera is overall my favorite. There's only 2 that are really notable to me. It's Edward Cabrera and Dean Kramer, both of them. It's for different reasons. Dean Kramer, because he's got a matchup against the White Sox. Edward Cabrera, mostly just because the strikeout stuff presents a lot of upside. it's not necessarily needed to go all that cheap on today's slate. But if you're playing an expensive stack and you need to go cheaper, Cabrera's the guy to me. He has a not great looking 4.73 ERA. Part of that, though, has been some bit of bad luck because he does have a 3.81 expected ERA and a 4.15 FIP. But it's the strikeout stuff. It's 25.5% for his career. It's 25% this year. But then on top of it, he's also been pitching better as of late, which does inspire a little bit more confidence. So if you look at Edward Cabrera's last couple of starts, against the Angels, 5 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts. The Angels strike out more than any other team in baseball, but still 10 strikeouts in less than 6 innings. That is going to be a good mark in any matchup. And then in a tough matchup against the Cubs, the game before that, Cabrera pitched 5 innings and had 7 strikeouts in that outing. So overall, you look at his last 2 starts, and it's 10 2/3 innings with 17 strikeouts, just 3 walks. Generally, that's the big issue for Edward Cabrera. If he pitches poorly, he's putting guys on base. I was looking at some of his numbers earlier. I think he's only had 2 starts over the last 3 years where he didn't walk anybody. So that's always going to be somewhat of an issue for him. It does cap his upside at times as well. He's not completed 6 innings in a single start this entire season, EMAC. And that'll happen when you strike out a bunch of guys, you walk a bunch of guys. It's kind of hard to make it through 6, 7 innings. But at his price point, it's a little bit less of a concern. It would be a concern if he was like 9K and you didn't think he'd get through 6 innings. But I'm on the same page as you. If you want to be contrarian and cheap, I think Cabrera is your best option on the slate, sub 10% owned.
All right. In Miami, you've got Robbie Ray on the other side here. He has a better top 2 percentile, top 2 pitching probability of 20%. So 1 in 5 times. He's going to be one of your top 2 pitchers here. We know what we're getting with the roller coaster. Strikeouts down a little bit this year compared to other years. But remember, he was going through some injury stuff, and now he's on the other side of it. But he, Father Time keeps marching on, or mixing those up. But Father Time is undefeated, and time marches on. So when you're missing injuries like that, time to injuries like that, especially as you get into your 30s, you're missing your prime. The other guy I think that's interesting on the positive side, and I want your thoughts on this, is Spencer Schwellenbach. Now he's going against Boston lineup. Boston lineup has all sorts of talent at the top, falls off in the middle. Stephen Leibowitz, I'm sure you're in chat, one of the more inconsistent teams here. I know you tend to like Walker Buehler. I don't like Walker Buehler at all. So that's probably my last turning point. Now, I don't really, do I want to take on the Atlanta lineup? Not really, but I'm okay going against Boston with Schwellenbach. He has turned into a nice pitching find by Atlanta. News of note, AJ Smith-Shawver is going to have Tommy John surgery. They announced that yesterday, or it might have been this morning. So between him and Strider and all of that, it's looking like it's Sale and Schwellenbach that are kind of your aces for Atlanta. But for today's action, how do you feel about the lefty-righty duo of Ray and Schwellenbach?
Yeah, I prefer Ray between the two of them. He's a little bit more popular. We've got a couple of different tiers of ownership. So Senga all the way at the top in a tier of his own. I think that's completely warranted. And then you have a decision point to be made where Luzardo's 21% owned, Skubal's 22% owned, Robbie Ray's 24% owned. So those 3 guys all really comparably owned right now for this slate. And between the 3 of them, I prefer Robbie Ray. Really like his matchup against the Miami Marlins. Obviously like that he's going to be pitching in a pitcher-friendly environment. But then also, he's 9K, Luzardo's 10K, Skubal's 11,300. So between the 3 of them, I'm going to take the salary savings on Robbie Ray. He's not quite as consistent as the other 2 pitchers. Well, at least not this year. Like overall for his career, Luzardo's been wildly inconsistent, but he's been consistently good this season. Robbie Ray does certainly have his ups and downs, but in this particular matchup against the Marlins, it's a good one for him. And then even if he is giving up hard contact, which is something Robbie Ray is prone to, less of an issue pitching in Miami, less of an issue when he's pitching at home as well in San Francisco. Robbie Ray, 2.56 ERA this year, 2.99 expected ERA. He appears to have made minor changes to his pitching this year compared to other years, prioritizing throwing strikes a little bit more compared to where he's been at the last couple of seasons. So His strikeout rate has dipped a little bit this year, but so is his walk rate. And I think overall that's been a net positive for him, even if he isn't generating quite as many swing and misses. And still, it's a 27% strikeout rate. So there's upside to be had there. But my two favorite pitchers on the slate, it is Kodai Senga and Robbie Ray. They are the two most popular pitchers, so it's not like I'm going out on a limb or anything like that, but I am overweight to the field on Ray, whereas I'm underweight to the field on Luzardo and Skubal, who are two other pitchers who are comparably owned to him. For cash games, Robbie Ray and Kodai Senga, that's going to be the two that I recommend are the best to go with.
All right. As we get towards the middle here, we're starting to trend towards talking about stacks. You've got Patrick Corbin, who at his salary, finally out of Washington, and also not only his DFS salary, but at the whatever it was, $1 million contract or whatever he signed with Texas after getting the Brinks truck from the Nationals for the last few years. He's been okay. I don't think we really need to go to those savings today, but even though he has allowed more home runs than anybody in the league since 2021 in about 100 innings less than the nearest guys, who would be Jose Barrios and Aaron Nola, who each have, I think they have about 20 home runs less than he does, and they've pitched 100 more innings. That's how wide the chasm is here for Patrick Corbin. He's not the complete tomato can that it's what's a better way of saying it? This ballpark and this matchup, it's a fine line of, I don't really want to stack against Corbin. If this was outdoors, if this was, it's a different team than the Cardinals, I'd probably be a little more excited to go against him. But I think this is kind of one of those, I'll happily accept both sides of it. I suspect I get to around 5-10% tops of Corbin, but he's not somebody I would be looking to avoid today. Where is your sort of cutoff here of when you want to get a little we're running out of good things to say about the pitchers?
Okay.
Sonny Gray, perhaps going against Texas. I have about the same assessment of him. Declining pitcher, a lot of good years. Texas lineup is a little dodgy. They do have Seager back. I didn't see if he was in the lineup today. He is batting second. So their lineup is a little bit better, but they dropped Marcus Semien down towards the bottom. Adolis Garcia he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, Greg. So their stalwarts from their deep postseason run a couple years ago are all just terrible.
Yeah, so Adolis Garcia is not good. And somebody who I guess because, like you said, he had some of that postseason success a couple of years ago where they won the World Series, you just kind of think like, he must be somebody who's been good. But below replacement level player last year, he has a 73 WRC plus this year, so he's declined even more. He had one really good season in 2023 where he had a 126 WRC plus and hit 39 homers. He still has power. He's hit 7 homers so far this year in 215 plate appearances. So he's on pace to hit over 20 homers. But yeah, he's just kind of trash overall now. He's got a 73 WRC plus, and for his career, 103 WRC plus. So he's now a career league average hitter, trending in the wrong way. He's 32 years old. And there's good reason to be skeptical that he even is 32. He might be 35 or 36 for all we know. Wouldn't be the first time that somebody has come from like the Dominican or things along those lines, and they've lied about their age to get better contracts. Like that's certainly something that could have happened. Where you look at like how come he had such a precipitous drop off once he hit his 30s? It's like, well, maybe because he was actually 33 or 34. Now he's like in his mid to late 30s at this point in his career, as opposed to actually the 32 years old that he's listed at. But yeah, Texas Rangers offense has been pretty disappointing. Sonny Gray is viable to me. I have some exposure to him, but he's not a priority or anything like that. There aren't that many pitchers that I love who are priced right around 8K. And, he's been serviceable this year, 4.06 ERA, 4.16 expected ERA. He does generate strikeouts, and kind of an odd thing that's happened with Sonny Gray at this point in his career. Even though he's a little bit less effective than he was in some previous years, 26% strikeout rate this year, 30% strikeout rate last year. So he has increased his swinging strike rate since coming to the Cardinals last season. Yeah, he's viable at 8K, but not anybody who I'm like going out of my way to force into lineups.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we get down to, I'll show the player projections here, because as you start to get in this middle group here, when you look at median projections, and we just got an update here, it's so odd to see how tight the pitchers get in this, because you're like, oh, I love this guy or I hate this guy, and then you look at him and it's like 2 strikeouts from anybody, bunches, 6 pitchers above or below them. And you're like, God, the variance in baseball is just so crazy. But if we start looking, like Slade Sassoni, okay, he's got the same projection as Sonny Gray. I wouldn't want to play Slade at all, yet I'm good with Sonny Gray. Bailey Ober, that's the night game. Edward Cabrera, I'd rather play him than Sonny Gray, but he has a lesser projection. But these are fractions of points. And that's where, using the tools, using the sims, things like that, it can help you parse out what makes the most sense, because sometimes you want to hide the names and go off the numbers. And it's harder to do that from our perception, right? Because the numbers are so close together. That's why it's a long way of saying you should really try the stochastic sims. Just saying.
And what's the easiest way for them to get access to it, EMAC?
Well, there are a myriad of ways. One of the ways would be to follow the Stokastic Hall of Fame process. So that is, if you go to the under social here, rock the Stokastic avatar. All you got to do is download the Stokastic avatar of your choice, upload that to your DFS site. And then if you finish first, second, or third, that's top 3, first, second, or third, no 20-way ties for showdown. You get you tweet that to Stokastic HOF on Twitter with the screenshot showing your Stokastic avatar, and we will get you 1 month of any single sport sims package. But wait, there's more. You can win multiple levels of this. You end up being a 3-time Hall of Famer. You get the Sims All Access. That's pretty cool. This counts for one year. Just in baseball alone, I'd already be at this level. Just on the quarter contest on FanDuel. So I'm just saying, you get the Sims, get it for this, and all of a sudden, this is something. If you're judicious about it, you can get yourself a couple months. No guarantees, but you could end up in the Ring of Honor, which would be a lot of fun, or the Millionaire Maker Club. We have quite a few people that have won the Millionaire with Stokastic avatars, but it all gets started here by following these simple little steps. That's the Stokastic avatar program. Let's see, good sir. How do you on air production meeting, how do you like to transition over to stacks? Is it a soft transition? Do you just jump right in? Do you make jokes about Eric? Because
that's kind of a given. You are the de facto Eric today because you are Eric. No, most people don't know that. Most people just think of you as EMAC or the next president of the country. Very few people know that your name is, in fact, also Eric. But yeah, usually I would, be calling him a moron at this point in time or something along those lines. But when we go to stacks, first, I usually in the in-between, I check Discord to make sure there weren't any existing questions for us from subs, which there aren't. But if anybody does have questions for us, tag EMAC and or I in Discord so we could see those questions and answer them. What I always like to do when I start by talking about stacks, EMAC, is I like to address single entry first. Because I know there's a lot of people who only play one lineup and want to know who to be stacking in that line. But also, single entry is such a different strategy for baseball compared to large field GPPs. And there isn't really another sport that's comparable. I guess hockey would be, but I don't play NHL DFS. But there aren't a lot of sports that have as wildly different of strategies for me in single entries compared to large field tournaments. So I like to talk about single entry first, which team I would be stacking if I was just playing a one single entry lineup. And then I talk about stacks as a whole for large field GPPs.
All right. If you were doing just one single lineup, who would you be stacking up today?
Yeah. So for single entry, I do think that there's a couple of different ways to go. The first thing I always look for is what leverage spots are available, which there's only one super chalky pitcher it's Senga. I have no interest in stacking against Senga today. So that's the first thing I look for in single entry. That's off the board for me. I'm not looking to stack against Senga. So then it's which offense do I think provides the most upside for the least amount of ownership? And to me, that's the Detroit Tigers today, who also, by the way, I just said how single entry is often different from large field GPPs, but the Tigers are also the team I get the most exposure to as a stack in large field GPPs. So if you look at our top stacks tool, we have them with the second highest top stack odds, and then being underrepresented by the field, 6% ownership, 9% chance to be a top stack. But then running everything through the Sims, same sort of deal. I get myself to 15% exposure to the Detroit Tigers as a stack. I really like the upside going up against Michael Wacha, who is a very low strikeout pitcher. His numbers aren't terrible this year. 3.21 ERA, 3.89 expected ERA. But it's more that the ball just gets put in place so frequently against him. He has a career worst 17% strikeout rate, and that is something that I think is going to be an issue for him going forward. You could only survive, especially going into the summer months, for so long pitching to contact. And he also walks guys. So he's got a 17% strikeout rate, a 7% walk rate. It's just a bad combination. Guy who gives up a lot of contact, also gives up walks. He puts guys on base. He's managed to avoid homers so far this season. But for his career, that's been an issue for him. He has an 11.7% career home run to fly ball rate. This year, it's 6.4%. So if you just gave him his career average home run to fly ball rate and he was giving up twice as many homers this year, then all of a sudden you're looking at quite a bit of a different pitcher on paper. So I like the upside of the Detroit Tigers, who are also not wildly expensive. That's overall my favorite stackable single entry on large field tournaments, EMAC. Do you like them, or is there a different team that you have in mind?
So no, I'm comfortable with them. So what I did here is I just used, now this is different than the single entry. I just built out on the single lineup simulars. This is where we can build out one lineup at a time. You can build out as many as you want, save them in the portfolio, name them, download them, etc. But you don't even have to fill out the whole lineup. So I put in Senga and Cabrera. That's where I was going with Cabrera for a little differentiation off of Senga. And then I picked the key, or I thought I did. Yeah, there we go. Torkelson. Oh, it's not scrolling all the way down. Carpenter and Riley Green were the three that I put in there. You could also go with Colt Keith as well. But I said, well, let's see what else this comes in. It then gave me a three-man stack here because the New York Mets are so popular here against Kodai Senga. But, I mean, you can see we have a lineup here that has reasonable ownership. The differentiation that we have from by going with Cabrera is going to be good. And then we get a little bit different with the likes of the Torkelson and the other two guys. Sometimes this doesn't scroll when I'm sharing my screen, so sorry about that, guys. But with Green and Carpenter, so I think that's a good way to go. And I looked at Wacha this morning because I was just looking at one. So Lindy's Leans Like Unlocks in Eric's Tails package there in his Discord. He puts out home run wagers, and he had both Carpenter and Green today as good bets. And I was looking at I'm going, but Wacha absorbs punishment. And then I looked at it more, and I'm like, oh, this year, just looking at it in a vacuum, I'm like, damn, that's a lower home run rate than I thought from his past. Now, he's a guy, to your point, all the balls go in play. He doesn't give up a ton of extra base hits, but there's always base runners on, or I should say home runs, right? And that's where what his major dilemma is he can go, he can have the 5-run innings because he gives up 4 consecutive hits and then gets runners on base and someone does a bases clearing double or something like that. But I was thinking, Eric's crazy that he's doing this. Why would he be going against Wacha? Wacha doesn't give up the home runs, but you're right. His underlying historical metric definitely is. And I think, what is this, his age 33 season? So he's a good guy to pick on today.
Yeah, he is, you're correct, 33 years old. All these players are younger than me now, which is an odd realization. At one point, it was odd when I was starting to be the same age as players. And now anybody who's my age, I'm like, oh, he must be washed now.
Oh, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't. Sure you know what gets fun is when all the players' kids start coming through, and it was always
also, even more so in the NBA. I don't know if you realize this, EMAC. The NBA draft, not half, but there's like 5 first-round picks in every NBA draft now. that are the son of a former player. Like Ron Harper's son is one of the Dylan Harper. He's one of the top picks in the NBA draft this year. Boozer's kids are both going to be going to the NBA. Carlos Boozer. Like Boozer, well, I remember Boozer being in the NBA with his stupid painted on hair not all that long ago. Now he's got kids with hair going to the league.
That's one of the best moments ever in that. So anyway, I'll get here. I see someone asking, who are the chalky stacks? All right, so that was a single lineup sim. Greg gave you a single lineup advice there, but let's look and see what we have overall for the stack. So the chalkiest stack, I can tell you without going till I get the page up, it's going to be the Mets. They are going against Antonio Senzatella. I think Senzatella is not a tomato can by any stretch. He's a ground ball pitcher, but he allows a lot of contact.
Sorry, Mac. You clicked the top pitcher still, not the stats.
Son of a gun.
It's the MLB drop down. Oh, you can just click MLB top stacks. That works too.
I was going to go right there.
There we go. Yeah, that'll do it.
There we go.
Easy. Yeah, Mets super popular. Super popular. Looks, more or less warranted when they've got the 11.7% ownership of the 11.3% top stack odds. I'm a little bit underweight to the field to them just because of how expensive they are. But it's hard to deny it's a really good matchup against Antonio Senzatella. It's funny, when the prop markets opened up, and I saw this come through on OddsShopper late last night, under 3.5 strikeouts for Senzatella. Is like, I cannot believe Senzatella is a 3.5 strikeout prop. That's like an astronomically high number for Antonio Senzatella. It's almost always 2.5. I was so excited when he had a 3.5 strikeout prop to bet the under.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, so I'm assuming that you went that route. Yeah. Cause he's a guy. I mean, he meanders along, he absorbs punishment, and then he's out of the game and he gives up 4 runs in 5 innings. And that's the Antonio Senzatella experience. So he ends up with a crappy ERA, but he doesn't go very deep into games. So, but yes, that is that adventure. How do you feel about Baltimore against Davis Martin? Another pitcher doesn't get a lot of strikeout, allows a fair amount of contact here. The batters of Birdland have the second highest top stack. The second highest. What did I sort on there?
Top value.
Top value. Thank you. The top value spot. Now, I think it's funny that the White Sox are there against Dean Kramer, but we can see that they don't have a very good top stacks percentage. That feels like fool's school. But how do you feel about Baltimore against Davis Martin?
So I don't have very much of Baltimore as a 5-man stack. I do have a lot of them as one-offs and as secondary 3-man stacks. Because there are hitters who, even though they've got guys who are having down seasons, they have hitters who are inexpensive and are talented. And I like the matchup against Davis Martin. If you just looked at the 3.45 ERA, you would think, oh, maybe Davis Martin is okay. He's got a 5.28 expected ERA. And this is a guy who really doesn't generate strikeouts. 14.6% strikeout rate for Davis Martin. And just off the top of my head, I think he's hit the under on his strikeout prop in nearly every single start this year, because it's pretty regularly a 3.5 or a 4.5 strikeout prop. And he just doesn't have the upside to strike out more hitters than that. He has hit, I've got it. 10 starts this year for Davis Martin. He has hit the under on his strikeout prop in 7 out of those 10 outings. So Davis Martin, oh no, I take that back. 8 out of those 10. 8 out of those 10, he's hit the under. So Davis Martin is somebody who's going to pitch to contact a lot. And I think that could really benefit a talented Orioles offense, even if it's been underwhelming so far this season. And that's where I look at guys like Adley as a catcher one-off. You and I were joking about him a little bit before the show, but I do like him as a catching option, as a one-off. I like Gunnar Henderson as a one-off as well. The field does. He's 18% owned, but I think that's warranted. If you're looking to get really cheap and save some salary, Jorge Mateo, who has stolen base upside and really good position eligibility, second base and outfield, I think he's a really good value option on the slate as well. As a one-off, he's one of my more rostered hitters on the slate. So those 3 are my primary options from Baltimore: Gunnar Henderson, Jorge Mateo, and Adley Rutschman. But there's other guys you can consider from Baltimore as well, like Jackson Holliday. He's somebody, if you want to get somebody who's lower owned from Baltimore, he was the top prospect in baseball heading into last year and really, really struggled at the start of the season. and then ended up getting sent back down after his initial call up to the big leagues. Got called up later on the season, found a little bit more success. Wasn't anything overwhelming, but he's been the one bright spot for the Orioles this year. He's a 115 WRC plus EMAC. So you've got a 21-year-old middle infielder who, when he got called, I think he was 19 when he first got called up last year. Maybe he might have been 20 at that point in time, but struggled and definitely made people question, like, oh, is this going to be one of these prospects that flames out? Also talking about players.
I was just going to set you up for it. What's his dad do?
His dad, Matt Holliday. I don't know if Holliday is in the Hall of Fame, but has a case to be in the Hall of Fame if he isn't there already. But Jackson Holliday is another guy who I like as a one-off. Maybe the one lone bright spot for the Orioles has been that him looking like somebody who could be a really valuable future player in the league. Because if you're a middle infielder with a 115 WRC plus at 21 years of age, that bodes well for your future. So three guys who I like as primary options. Then you got single-digit ownership on Jackson Holliday, who I like as a contrarian option.
All right. I'm going to upload my FanDuel lineups here. I went half the field on Senga. Just to find that differentiation, as I mentioned, you can push that to the other pitchers. Just real quick, flipping over to FanDuel for their stacks, and we've got 9 minutes to go here until lock. Everybody, it's Antonio Senzatella is again just flashing lights all around him. Waka is there as well. Walker Buehler. Maybe the top stacks agree with what I'm saying there. Greg, are you getting much Atlanta? And then we get down to just kind of a very flat area here with a bunch of teams.
I've got Atlanta stacks. Not anything like crazy different from the field, because what do we have Atlanta now in the updated? No, never mind. Because Atlanta's really. Oh, is this FanDuel? This is FanDuel. Okay, that's why it's different. Can you go to the DraftKings ownership? Right. Yeah, because I was looking at Atlanta. I was like, when did Atlanta get to be 12% owned today? That threw me for a second. But anyway, as far as the Braves go, I've got some exposure to them. But yeah, there it is. They are 9% owned. I'm not all that much different from the field on Atlanta. It's a reasonable team to stack. They're just the third most popular team on the slate, and I'm in line with the field. But yeah, I think the Braves are going to be fine going forward. I've been saying that for 2 months now, though, and they've just been middling. So eventually I am either going to be right or the season will end and I'll say that, hey, they just ran out of time. It wasn't that. Like, I still believe in the talent on this offense, and Acuna's look great. So like you didn't know what Acuna was going to be. He's had 2 ACL injuries now, missed the start of the season. And I think he kind of put those concerns to rest immediately, because the first pitch he saw of the entire season, it's a 460-foot home run, and he's kind of been on a tear since then. So once again, I think the Braves, at least on offense, are going to be fine going forward. I definitely have concerns about Strider at this point, just ineffective when he's pitched at times, and then also just the oft-injuredness of him. But the offense, I think, should be good, and Walker Buehler is a pitcher who appears to be on the decline, even if he does flash moments of being a guy who was formerly a top pitcher. It's far and few between, but I like Atlanta against Walker Buehler.
All right, and then anything else that's that you want to start doing call outs as we get towards lock here on offense?
Let's see.
Tampa Bay, I guess, is where I wanted to. My call out would be they get a decent matchup here against a rookie already in his crafty lefty phase, even though this will be his third or fourth start today. He's a low 90s fastball, no real secondary pitches. He's a kind of a pitch to contact guy, multi-inning reliever. He has a different arm slot. Colton Gordon is his name. He has a lower arm slot than a lot of players. So he is just going to be nails against lefties, but not against righties, and not going a second time through the lineup. So the Tampa Bay offense is, they're going to go platoon heavy, but any of their lefties that are in the lineup, aren't going to be out after today. They got a couple of switch hitters in there. I'd worry about the bottom of the order potentially getting flipped when a right-hander comes into the game. The other thing to remember is Houston has even more injured pitchers than the Dodgers. So that's the only reason we're seeing some of these guys in the Astros rotation. They wouldn't even sniff they'd be like every third day, fourth day bullpen arms, yet they're starting in this season. So
yeah, it's funny. So another team that I am overweight to the field too that we have not discussed. It's the same game, but the other side. Zach Littell is really bad, like really, really bad. His strikeout prop today is 3.5. One of the top bets on OddsShopper earlier today was the under 3.5 strikeouts for Zach Littell. And you look at him so far this year, he only has one thing that salvaged his season, and that's that he is a 245 BABIP. That is not going to uphold. Well, also, he has an 82.4% strand rate. So there's been an absurd amount of good luck that's gone towards Zach Littell. He should be allowing more runners on base. And when those runners get on base, they should be scoring more often. He's also a guy who gives up a lot of fly balls, and he has a 15.7% home run to fly ball rate. So 4.73 expected ERA and a 5.12 FIP for Littell. I like stacking against him with the Houston Astros. He is not a good starting pitcher. I know some of those numbers are going to be a little bit inflated because of how hitter friendly that ballpark is in Tampa Bay and this game is in Houston. I don't care where Zach Littell pitches. I think he's gettable. This is not a major league caliber starting pitcher, in my opinion.
Yeah. The other one we didn't really hit on was Cleveland. They're going against Kyle Hendricks. You've got Jose Ramirez, who's one of the best hitters in the game. They've got their platoon guys out there. So Manzardo's in, etc. Stephen Kwong, he's not a platoon. He has the platoon advantage, but he's not bad against lefties. But I like them as well. They were one of the hand-built stacks I made on FanDuel. Not getting as much of them on, or getting more like three-mans kind of on DraftKings. So up with my DraftKings lineups there. We should probably do home run calls.
We could do home run calls, and then that will finish this up for us. And you guys, let us know who you are all picking to homer today. Just let us know in chat, and we'll read off some of your answers on screen. But yeah, homer timing, Mac. We've got the graphic that I always make sure to shoehorn into this because I was going to say
dawn of the day. Dawn of the day, Chris Spags is puppet Lindquist with the dawn coming out of Eric's mouth. Dawn of the day.
I didn't realize that you had that level of amplitude that you could bring to the singing chops there. But yeah, I created that in all of 3 seconds using AI. So you gotta get your bang for your buck out of that by putting it on screen more often. So Emac, you sung the theme song. But now I want to know who you're picking a homer today. I'll give my homer pick. We'll read off some of chat's picks, and we'll call it a day.
All right. So top of the board, I like Jose Ramirez going against Kyle Hendricks. A little bit more favorable pitching weather, but I'll take Jose Ramirez. And then the other guy that I thought was interesting was Brandon Lau, lefty. Out of Tampa, but I'm still okay because I don't think Colt Gordon's anything special. So,
which direction do I want to go? You know what? I'll go Gunnar Henderson going up against Davis Martin today. Gunnar Henderson, who I'm also pretty sure I bet to homer today amongst a handful of homer bets that I have for this afternoon. So Gunnar Henderson, who works for me as a DFS homer, also works as a betting homer. I believe the odds were plus 550. If I recall correctly from earlier today. Emac, do you want to do the honors and read it? Because you are technically the host. Do you want to do the honors and read off the homers? Do you want me to do it? I'll let you.
Let's keep with tradition. Let's have you do it. It's more fun because then this feels like I'm waiting. Is Greg going to say mine? Is Greg going to say my old pal Emac? There we go.
I'm going to read that as Emac doesn't have chat up right now.
I do. By the way, Pete Alonso, quite popular. Dirty O says Emac is the songbird of his generation.
I got to interrupt you, Emac, because we got a super chat. Chris Albers asks, is it crazy to play Skubal and Martin at pitcher? Skubal, no. But yes, it's crazy to play Davis Martin because he sucks. Yeah. That's the issue with Davis Martin. Other than that, I have no issue with Skubal. If you're going to punt at pitcher, just go to either Dean Kramer or go to Edward Cabrera, who are better pitchers, have better matchups. But yeah, don't play Davis Martin today. It's baseball, random shit could happen, and it is more variance than any other sport. So at any point in time, could any shitty pitcher have a good game? Sure, but don't make a habit of playing Davis Martin. What upside is there in a guy with a 14% strikeout rate? Let's see. Nothing. What do we have from chat? Jelly Bean has got Altuve. We've got Fact74 says Joe. Who's Joe?
Jose. I think he's saying Jose.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I see it. All right, so Jose Altuve was picked twice there. Steven Leibowitz going with Kerry Carpenter. We've got Mangum from Trey McKell. We've got Jose Ramirez from Fact 74. We've got we're both wrong. It was Jose Ramirez he meant to put in. It wasn't.
I meant Jose Ramirez. Same as
All right. All right. I know that's your trick. You just throw out a common name, Thomas, and then you take credit for any of them. Pete Alonso from Folk Matt. Say what has Kyle Schwarber. We've got Pete Alonso for 2 homers from Reg Kell. Colt Keith is the pick from Austin. We've got Junior Whopper going with Juan Soto. Ryan O'Hearn from Matty Ice. Jared Young from Jake DeWitt. Charles Moran is going with Willie Castro. Dirty O has got Mauricio Dubon. Rooster Slinky has got Yanier Diaz. Gary Famoso has got Rafael Devers. Nicholas Robertson also going with Gunnar Henderson. Kyle Kring says Altuve isn't in the lineup. He absolutely is in the lineup today, Kyle Krings. All right. We need people getting better sources of lineup news because this has come up multiple times. RotoWire, bad source of news. DraftKings, bad source of news. FanDuel, bad source of news. You want to know why all of those are bad source of news? Because it all comes from the same place. DraftKings and FanDuel news, it comes directly from the RotoWire feed, and it's trash. Don't use it. Why are so many people saying Altuve is there another? Did we miss something? Did Altuve get ruled out in the last couple of minutes, or is this just because of what DraftKings and FanDuel says?
I'm now going to the Twitter. I don't see anything on Twitter. Just quickly typing in his name.
Al Butts has got Wilson Contreras. Charles Moran says FanDuel and RotoWire. Well, it's the same source. Okay, yeah. People are just reading off FanDuel and DraftKings. They're all getting. Don't get your news from FanDuel, DraftKings, or RotoWire. That's bad. Bad information. Block them. Don't look at them. He's starting today. He's been starting the entire day. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed there. Tom Olson is picking Olson. All right, well, they're related. It makes sense. And then we just have like 10 messages that Jose Altuve isn't playing today. And all right, that wraps up all of them. Fact 74 says DK has him listed as that. Guess what? I don't care what DK said. Are we gonna get lower ownership on Altuve because of this? Because nobody thinks he's playing now?
And then watch him get a rumbly in his tumbly and leave after the first inning or something. All right. Well, for those wondering, my mom was actually in the San Francisco Opera when she was a girl. So there you go. And my grandmother was a radio singer back in the day.
Oh my God! Back in the 20s, the 1820s.
Long time ago. Well before my time. But with that, we are going to get on out of here. Do not forget, 7:30 tonight, live before lock, NBA Game 6. Hopefully we have a good one because there is no official game until Thursday unless the Knickerbockers pull off a win, and then we get Game 7 on Monday. I believe 13 or 14 teams have come back from a 3-1 deficit. So unlikely, but that doesn't mean they can, lose. If they win tonight, they still have to win again. So maybe we'll get more basketball. Who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to go with the local team and pick the Knicks because that would be more fun. I think the Pacers are more likely to win, but I'll pick the Knicks because that's beneficial for us to get an extra basketball game on Monday. It would be fun to have a Game 7. This has been an all-time series. I know last game the Knicks won pretty convincingly. That was the first time we've had a game that wasn't super competitive down the stretch, but it's been a really, really fun series. So I'm going to pick the Knicks more so in hopes that it is going to be extended. By the way, I didn't even know Prize Picks put out lineups. I'm going to make a bet right here because John Prince in chat said Prize Picks has Altuve out. I bet their news feed is probably RotoWire. All these sites.
How do so many people use RotoWire when it used to be the gold standard 10 years ago?
It was considered it, but it never actually was. Yeah. It's always been bad information. It was just the only source of information for a little bit. You become the gold standard when you have no competition. Kind of like, why is the UFC the gold standard of MMA? Because they're a monopoly. They have no competition. It's just kind of it was that for a little bit. They were just the first in the space, RotoWire. But yeah, they're no good. They're no good at news, RotoWire. Go to RotoWire if you just want bad lineup information. Other than that, go to here's the other thing too. Go follow like Underdog on Twitter, or go follow Stokastic MLB. These are free sources that are going to give you the actual lineups.
Yeah. Very shaky. Very shaky. All right. With that, we're going to get on out of here, guys. So tune in at 7:30 to go see Josh Engelman. You guys can catch me tomorrow. It'll either be noon or 12:30. I will be joined by Eric Lindquist as we break down Sunday baseball. We just have to determine if the sites are going to include that 105 game or go with the 135 game. So we will adjust accordingly, but we will definitely have baseball. With that, gamers, good luck.